Oh, the red dot of death right off the bat. That's going to be great. It's going to be great. Coolsies. What's up, guys? It is Wednesday. It's 9:30 where I am. A little later, earlier where y'all are. But welcome to our very first Witches and Wine. Y'all can't see what's on the screen behind me. But we're going to talk about some interesting shit. And this will... yeah, it's going to peg a lot of stuff, pin a lot of stuff, peg. I don't know, whatever the fuck. Y'all know what I'm saying. It's going to bring up a lot of things. I had something specific I wanted to talk about this morning. I was like, this is what we're talking about, like blah, blah, blah. But then it's been a weird day. It's been a weird fucking day. And so having a glass of wine while I talk about weird fucking shit could not have better timing. But what's interesting is, I have no idea where I put my wine glasses. So I am drinking wine out of a mug that says, let's go fuck shit up. Because I feel like that is the best. I feel like that is the best thing to talk about this with. So I'm joined behind you guys there by several wonderful people. Right now I've got Monica, Angie, Michael, and Morgan. Angie, you're going to have to get an M name. And I'm going to have to go back to my government name if we're all doing the M's tonight. We're going to have to... we all got to go back to the M's. But... we're going to talk about something that I know a lot of y'all are dealing with as well. And that is all the weird fucking shit going on. And a couple of years ago, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm just used to it. I'm just used to it at this point. You know, there's always going to be weird shit. But right before I got on my live, Michael said that he had been seeing some of the same fucking shit that y'all have been telling me y'all have been seeing. And that I've been seeing. So tell us again, Michael, what it is that you've kind of been, that what you said that you've kind of been seeing.
Okay, well, I will say to begin, I've seen apparitions since I've been about 4.
Okay.
But what's been happening the past, 3 weeks, how you hear about shadow people out of the corner of your eyes that are
right.
just shadows walking around. I've been seeing that, but without the shadows, where I'm seeing full detailed, I'm seeing clothing, hair, everything. But they're acting as if shadow people. That's what, to me, is beyond weird.
Okay. So did they, when you see them, do they look shadowy? Or do they just, do they look dimmer? Does that make better sense? Do they look dimmer than other people?
Yeah. To me, it looks almost as if they're torn in between 2 different realms.
Okay.
Like, you're looking through the veil of a completely different dimension, realm type deal, where you have that, blockiness to it.
Yeah.
But I can still see the full detail. As
Yep.
if, you're looking at me, or I was looking at you in person. That's where it's just weird, yet it's always now in the corner of my eye, not right in front of me or anything like that. Okay.
I love that you said that. That's why I was like, hold on, we're going to talk about that as soon as we get on here. So this really, for me, so I've always seen people, things, whatever, as well. Like you said, mine, sometimes they just look like, well, when I was little, it was one of those things I turned off because you get scared, you're like, nope, turning that shit off. But in the past, 10 years, it's come back really strong. And I got used to it. But last summer, I remember the specific time I saw this thing, I stood in my kitchen window for probably about 10 minutes. I was on the phone with Sass and I was like, I think I'm crazy. I think something's wrong with me. I was looking out across the backyard and there was an empty lot behind me and then a house kind of catty corner to where my house was. And there's a little red brick house and I'm standing there and we're just, fucking talking away blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden I see this fucking thing skitter up the roof. And I mean skitter. It was round and it was black and it looked like a shadow. And it was the size of probably 6 shingles together. And I stood there for a minute and I told her what I was seeing. And she was like, we have these conversations on a daily basis. So she was like, I believe you. I was like, I think I'm crazy. Like, I don't want to take my eyes, because it went up and over the roof. And I was like, I don't want to take my eyes off of that, because what if it comes back over? Like, what the fuck was that? And ever since then, and it was right after we had that massive tornado here, or, you know, all the shit in Tulsa, and we didn't have power. Ever since then, I see them only out of the corner of my eyes as well. And it's fucking weird, man. Do any of you other ladies, are y'all seeing these same things as well? Or are they like full on in front of your face? Because I know people that they're full on in front of their face too.
With me, it's I see out of it's like the corner of my eye. I'll see something, you know, human size, but then other times there's just something small, and it's just zooms right across the floor, and I'm like, what was that? Because I have a cat, but he's not that fast and that small, so yeah.
So Morgan said it's both. Okay. So when you guys are seeing these, are you noticing, are they predominantly like at home, or are they out and about everywhere?
Most of the ones I'm seeing are at home, but I do see them out in public more now than I did before. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. Okay.
I would say for me, I've seen them everywhere. At home, in the middle of masses, out in public. I've seen them everywhere because, well, unlike you, I've never turned it off. So
Right.
I've always had that gift to where normally they show up full on right in front of me, as if I'm talking to a full on person. But
Right.
anymore, it's just more recently the corners of my eyes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So for me, it's mostly at home, but now it is starting to get like when I'm in the office at work, I'll see something and I look, and it's me and two other people that are there in the office, but they're in their office on the other side of the building. So I'm like, okay, so that wasn't them. What was that?
So have any of you guys seen huge ones? Around the summer solstice, when all the girls were here, a couple of them stayed, you know, a little before and a little after the solstice, and we were sitting outside, and I see it a lot out there, unfortunately, but we were seeing some that almost spanned the whole end of the roof, like the whole end of the building, just this weird big inky black thing. And it would start off in the corner of the eye and then go over to the front like it was crazy. But are you guys seeing big, huge ones as well?
I have down in the basement here at my house. I have started from one side toward the bathroom and then up to the stairs, and it waked me out. And then also what you asked about, what else we've seen. The other day there was a person up in the yard. I live close to it where they bring cars that have been in wrecks and stuff. And there was a person walking around, and I didn't think anything much of it. So I got out of the car, was getting my groceries, and then I was like, oh, cool, we got people looking around. And then next thing I know, the dude comes running after me and then disappears, and my heart was just beating like no other.
Oh, wow. So you live where they take cars where people have been probably unalived in?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm kind of glad that we're morphing over into that, and I want to know y'all's opinions on if y'all, those of you guys that have those kind of things, does that happen? Have you seen people over there before that have disappeared like that, or is this the first time?
This has been the full apparition of a person, where I can see what he looked like, what he was wearing, and everything. Usually I just see shadows and stuff, but it's been more coming through, like more apparent of who he is, what he's doing and stuff. Not like I know who he is, but yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. The reason I ask is I have a lot of friends that own some very haunted properties, and then some that are, you know, not super not, they're all haunted, but like some well-known, there we go, some like well-known places. And they're noticing that activity is picking up like insanely. They're places that have very famous hauntings are noticing new entities. They're noticing things like that. So that's why I asked if it was like the first time you had seen something like that, or if it was the first time someone had ever chased you or whatever. I'm curious if any of you guys have noticed glitches lately. I have a reason for asking if you've noticed like full on, I'm watching glitches happen kind of things lately.
Yes, in the house just now, actually.
Yes, there's so many glitches. Even my kids have started noticing this, especially my oldest.
Okay. Do you feel like they're picking up, or do you feel like, or not? We'll leave that as one question, and I'll ask the other question.
I don't know if they're picking up or if I'm noticing them more.
Okay.
I feel like they're picking up more.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Morgan. I notice things, but then I'm like, oh, that's weird. But I'm not sure if that's always done that, or if maybe it's just picking up more and I'm noticing it more.
Okay. The reason I ask is like the summer of 2021, there were I saw massive glitches. Like, I mean, watching a car be halfway above the concrete, first in one lane and then in another, and then it was just weird. And there was other people in the car with me that saw it. Like, we pulled over and I'm like, did somebody like puff a magic vape and not tell us? Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, it fucked us all up for a little bit. But I feel like the big massive ones happened in like 2021 and 2022, and these are like smaller ones. It's almost like those were the big, huge earthquakes, and now we're having these tiny aftershocks. But I'm curious y'all's take on that. Do you feel like these are little things, like they were big, and now that's just a lot of little things, or if it's still big? I don't know what to make of the silence. I'm just going to take that as there's just a ton. I don't know. I'm curious, are you guys in the group with me where it's like, oh, the sky looks different? Like, why does the sky look different?
Yes, on that aspect, yes, I'm very much with you. The sun seems like way brighter. Okay, so I'm in Texas also, so I'm sure that has an issue with it, but yeah, it just seems brighter. And sometimes when I'm sitting outside, things look vibrant.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if maybe I don't know. It's just all getting all weird.
That makes 100% sense. Like, I travel a lot, so I see a lot of clouds in different areas, like mountains, desert. I see like all these different places, and I've always been that nerd that looks at clouds. So I've noticed how much more detailed they are. Like, they look like paintings. Like, I stopped today taking my kid back to college to get out of the car and take a video because it was just a hot ass Oklahoma day, like no big deal. And then next thing I know, I'm like, it literally just looks like CGI. Like, it looks so perfect. And I told my kid, I was like, that is just beautiful. And she was like, it's clouds. I was like, yeah, but look, like the sky to cloud ratio, like there's these little beautiful little puffs, and then the green, and the sun is so bright. And what made it even weirder, because Sass and I had talked about this, it's been a while since we talked about the sunflowers. I don't know if y'all have noticed the sunflowers. I haven't seen any or paid attention to any. And when I pulled over to take this video, on the side of the road in front of me was a little thing of sunflowers. I had like 3 or 4 on the top. The sun is in front of me, but the sunflowers were facing me. They were not facing the sun. They were facing away, like completely away from the sun. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that is so weird. And I turn around and there are other ones that are facing away from the sun. And I'm like, that's just the weirdest fucking thing. Like, I videoed that too. But have y'all noticed stuff like that?
Yeah, I've noticed how it's almost looked like a pastel painting at times, especially at like dusk or dawn.
Yes.
Because I work a lot of overnights.
Okay.
To where it's almost as if it's a pastel painting with colors you've never seen before at those times. Like vibrant purples and pinks and oranges all throughout the sky. Which to me, where I live up in the mountains of Pennsylvania, I've never seen that, at least around here.
Okay. Interesting. I notice it, but yeah, it's been, that's really interesting. So what else have you guys noticed? Like, what other weird things have you guys noticed that are making you kind of pause and go, I don't know what to think about this. Like, makes you kind of stop in your tracks for a minute and go, I don't know what just happened.
A few months ago, I was sitting on my back porch. It's a covered back porch, and I could have sworn I heard owls hooting, and it was 2 of them back and forth. And I was like, there's not really big tree, because it's a relatively newer neighborhood, so there's not big trees where they can hide in. Where I'm at. A few streets down there is. So I'm like, okay, are there owls or are they doves? But even then, it's nighttime. Shouldn't they be in bed? So I'm just, the birds are really kind of, I'm noticing. And then hummingbirds. We used to have hummingbirds all over the place, but I put out feeders and everything. They're not around.
See, I haven't noticed that because living up here, living up above the shop, like I don't have a yard, so I don't have hummingbird feeders. So I haven't noticed that. But I 100% have noticed the birds, the crows, especially the crows and the ravens, because I pay attention to those 2 birds everywhere I go. They're definitely coming out more, like more than I ever remember. Like, I've seen them in the trees and stuff as long as I can remember, but they're really bold coming. Like, they'll come onto my roof over here really close to where I'm at. It's almost like they try to communicate a lot. They're way more vocal than they used to be. But I think it's interesting you mentioned owls in particular, because I know a few people that have had some weird run-ins with owls lately. So what do you guys, we're gonna shift and talk about owls for a minute. What did you guys grow up hearing about owls? Like, what did they mean to you? Like, if you were to see an owl, to you, is it good or bad?
I would say, to me, what I grew up learning was they were good. They were predators. They were very silent, very swift. Now, through my education and all that, like, I believe it was Morgan, for the last week and a half, I've been hearing owls, which now I'm taking as a sign from Nick. But that's just me.
Gotcha.
Growing up, it was always, it's a bad sign. That means death is coming, and it's fine if they're in the tree line over there where they belong, but if they're at your house, your porch, your fence line, hooting, and you can see them, then that's a bad omen. Now, after reading and educating myself, and I don't feel that way now, but before, growing up, it was very much, oh, that's bad, get in the house.
Okay. What about you other ladies?
Was always told that they were bad, but I've always believed that they're good. I have a couple in the trees. I live up in Conifer, Colorado, so they're always hooting and stuff. When I'm driving home from work and it's dusk, I'll see them fly by the car and stuff. I've just always believed that they're good, even though, my grandma would always tell me they were bad.
Okay.
Growing up, they were always like a sign, like it was a sign, like, because they were wise, like the wise old owl. That's always what I heard. But I'm also in Colorado, and like I've had neighbors find them in their yard, like in the grass. Like it's been really weird.
That is weird. That is weird. I always when I grew up, I like what my parents said and everything was that they were bringing a message, like they were messengers. They were bringing a message. I know that like when I was really little out at my grandparents' house, there was only once that I remember hearing one. It was just in the field next door, and it was at dusk anyway. So like at the time we were supposed to be going in anyway. My sister and I were still playing in the dirt, but so my grandpa came out and kind of rushed us in a little bit. So, I mean, as I've gotten older, I'm like, well, I wonder what that meant. Was that just his way of getting us in the house to go take a bath and take our asses to bed? Or, because I remember it was significant because we stopped and listened to it because it was a screech owl. If y'all have ever heard a screech owl, like it sounds like a woman screaming bloody murder sometimes. So, but I was always taught that they were good. They were trying to bring a message, So, but I mean, I know that they are said to be like bad omens and omens that something is going to happen. But has anybody else noticed something different with birds around your area lately? I love that a couple of you are in Colorado and Pennsylvania and Texas and Oklahoma. Like, I think that's really cool. So I wish we had someone like in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest.
As for weird things with birds, yes. Probably about a month and a half ago, I drive about an hour, sometimes an hour and 20 minutes to and from work.
Okay.
About a month and a half ago, out of nowhere, the exact same spot, every time I went to work and every time I left work, there was a bald eagle. And bald eagles are not native to my area at all.
Oh, wow.
It happened for an entire, week and a half.
There's a ton of them around Tulsa, around Keystone Lake and the Arkansas River here. But still, you kind of have to go and down where their nests are to see them. Like, you don't just randomly see them. So that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
What was even more bizarre was it was the exact same spot. Every single
weird.
time I would see it, it would look at me, and no sooner I would pass, it would take off.
So is it like in the mountains, or is there a body of water right there? Like a river or a lake, or not a lake, or a stream or something like that?
It was in the midst of a cornfield.
Even weirder.
Yeah.
Okay, even weirder now. Okay. Yeah, that's really weird.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There was one time I had come out of the grocery store, and my car was literally covered with grackles. And those, I was reading up on it, and those are considered the Mexican crows. So, but it was covered, and I got to my car, I was like, oh, hello, I need to get in, please. And so, yeah, and, some of them flew off, and I was able to open the door and closed it, and yeah, that was weird. That's never happened to me before.
We have those up here too, and I've had a couple of them be on the car, but usually, I mean, don't get me wrong, like every now and then there's an aggressive one that's like, bitch, give me some food, but yeah, for the most part, they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want to get close to you. That is interesting. The day that my car got vandalized out here in the parking lot, and I was sitting out there waiting for the police to arrive. There's like a little pole fence thing right there, and I was sitting on it, and it puts my back to the road and the building to my left. So I was sitting there, and I noticed this movement out of the corner of my eye, and I knew that it was like something, and I was like, okay, don't move, just sit here. This big, humongous raven just hops his little self over, looks straight at me, and continues hopping. He goes over to my car, flies up to the top of my car. I don't know how the hell he was holding on to something, because my car is like, there's no rails, like my car has a glass roof, but he sits up there, and he gets on a little fin on the back, and he starts screaming, just calling. And I'm like, okay, like I've got it on video because it was so weird. And as soon as he did, like 10 sparrows come over, and they're all sitting on and around my car. A couple of other ravens come, and a couple pigeons. I'm like, the fuck is going on right now? Like, okay, like I'm sitting here with my car all messed up, and it was probably the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. And there were people that were walking by to go to other businesses, and these birds are just like staring these bitches down. And I was laughing, like I was laughing so hard, but I've never seen anything like that. Like I've never seen anything like that. So go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, so may I ask, do any of you all feel that it may be the gods reaching out to us about something bigger coming?
I mean, I personally would say yes. That's part of why I wanted to talk about the weird things happening is if you guys feel like it is kind of omens, if you feel like personally, especially with what you were talking about with seeing people that are a little more dim, they're still there. You can see all their details. It's almost like if you look at the multiverse theory with the bubble universes, it's almost like those bubbles meshing together a little bit, like crossing over slightly. I love that you mentioned that Nyx, you see owls as a sign from her, because I've always seen ravens as a sign. It depends. If there's one, then I usually see that as a sign from the Morrigan. And if there's two, it's a sign from Odin. And I am that weirdo that if my GPS is broken, I will see where the crows are, and they always appear. It's the craziest thing. So what about the rest of you ladies? Because obviously Michael and I are on team gods. But so where are the rest of you ladies? Where are the rest of you guys falling on this?
I think it is a sign. I mean, right before like my whole life blew up, I was seeing like rows of crows on the house next door for like days in a row. And I was like, oh, something's coming, and it totally flipped everything. So I really think it is a sign from the gods.
Okay.
I agree. I believe that it's a sign also.
I think with opening up more and educating myself on more aspects of life and religion, rather than sticking with what I was, how I was told I needed to think and believe growing up, I am open to many more possibilities than I was.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you're kind of on the fence, but leaning toward it being more of a sign.
Yeah.
Okay. So Monica's our voice of reason. Monica is the adult in the conversation right now. So I'm curious, like with you guys, just quickly, like how did you guys grow up? Like me, y'all know I grew up really interestingly weird, like the mountains in Colorado, there was church, and like that kind of stuff. We really never went to church at all. Like I don't even remember going to church on like Easter or anything like that. So how about you guys? Like how did y'all grow up?
I'll would say, go ahead.
I was going to say I grew up Catholic, going to Sunday school, going to church every Sunday and every holiday. I graduated from like a Catholic school. Like it was a lot.
Okay.
A lot of Catholic.
I would say for me, I was brought up strict, old school, where they still spoke Latin, Roman Catholic.
Okay.
But like I said, I started seeing spirits or entities or daemons, whatever you want to refer to them as far back as the age of 4 that I can remember physically. And it continued even more up until about 10, whenever I just pretty much cut away and started learning of the magical aspect of everything and kind of started my craft around the age of 10 through education.
Okay.
Well, I also grew up Roman Catholic and Mexican, so there's that added the traditional thoughts of, you know, the male and the female have their roles that they need to play. And I even when I was younger, I was not comfortable with that. And I remember seeing things that I didn't understand as a kid. And I was scared, and I thought, I'm going to hell, basically. Right. That's what they're showing me. I'm going to hell. And so I was scared, and I had gone through the CCD classes and the baptism and the confirmation classes, everything. I went through all of that. And I was still seeing it. And I was like, I'm doing something bad, is basically how my thought process was, because that's how I was told. And so I shut it down, lock and key, as much as I could, and tried to just ignore it. And I regret that now, because I'm like, okay, I know I can do this because I did it before. Let me see how I can unlock it, basically.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was very, honestly, I was just very scared.
Mine is, I grew up Christian, went to church with family and stuff. About 5 years old and stuff, I was able to, when my grandpa passed away, I got really sick, and when I went to the funeral, he sat up and told me everything was going to be okay. The older I got, I would tell my mom and stuff, and she was just like, I'm going to send you to a nunnery because you're just crazy. And I've been always told that I was just crazy, that it was just all in my head.
I find it interesting that 3 of you guys here grew up Catholic, like very strict Catholic. And Angie, it sounds like you grew up kind of strict with that as well. I hate that you were always told that you were crazy. This is one of the things I love about Catholicism is the Latin, the ritual, etc., because it makes when people have that as a background, your practice, your craft as you get older is always going to be very ritualistic based. Like, you either are drawn toward it because it's kind of what you've been programmed to do is, ritual, or you run completely the other way and you're like, I am the laziest witch ever. But when it comes to Southern Baptists, especially, they're the ones that they had, Grandma or Uncle Jim Bob or whoever has the sight, or they could speak words, they could speak fire out of you or whatever. So I find it really interesting, all of the differences and the similarities with stuff. So, I also find it interesting that all 4 of you grew up very, very Christian, whereas I did not. So sometimes it's hard for me to identify with some of those things because I never sat in church as a kid. Like I went with a couple friends one time and I was like, ooh, don't like this. Like I'd rather be outside playing. So I find it very interesting. So how has, for those of you guys that grew up Catholic, how has that affected, and then Angie, I'm going to single you all out. How has that affected you guys with your practice? Especially with all this weird shit you're seeing.
I would say for me, it has kind of resulted in a slight ritualistic. Like, before I start anything, I will light my protections. I'll then use incense and sound to cleanse all of the herbs with leaving only their purest intent. I'll cleanse everything to where it's almost like I'm practicing high magic, even though to me it's just like habit, if that makes sense.
Yep.
There are some ingredients or some scents that I hate. I cannot smell it. I don't like it. I don't want it anywhere near me because it takes me back to church services.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that is associated with this, and I can't use it with this because it's bad. Basically, what I'm doing is bad. So, and I can't cross that over because it's sacred. And
Gotcha.
so, yeah. Plus the smell, I'm just like it. I associate it with certain, what's it called?
Trauma.
Well, yeah, that is a word.
I mean, it's not funny, but
yeah. And when I'm reading up, and I'm like, oh wait, I do have religious trauma. Oh my gosh, look at that. Yes, that's it. So, yeah, there's some things that were done throughout church services that I'm like, okay, I am not doing that here because that's just a negative connotation to me.
Gotcha.
I agree with that. Like the religious trauma, there's a lot of things I won't do. That just because, like, it's so hard for me. But like when I graduated and I turned 18, I left and I never went back to the church. So I don't know. I'm a hot mess and everything. Like it's just chaotic. So I think I thrive more without all of the like structure of the church, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just, but there's a lot of things I just don't. I stay away from just because it brings back so much.
Gotcha. Well, Angie, how about you? How did your upbringing, how has that affected you now that you are not, now that you don't practice that religion anymore?
Oh, I don't like church at all. I get chills. I get chills just talking about it. I'm all nervous, so that's why I'm all I don't know. I kind of shut everything down. And it took a while to to see who I am for me.
Gotcha.
And to just forget that just because, your mom wants you this way or they want you to believe this and that doesn't mean that you have to. You're still a good person, so do you. So now if I cry, it's just hormones. I had a hysterectomy, so I'm really sorry, Bodhi, but if you cry with me, I'm really sorry. So I found you, and I've been able to remember, in a sense, if that makes sense, who I am, who I've always been, and I've been able to do my incense and just breathe with nature and get closer with nature and just realize that it's all in me, that I don't have to do anything for anybody else. It's just me. So I thank you for that, by the way.
Aww.
So, yeah.
I'm glad I could help in some teeny tiny little way. I want to tell you guys that while we were talking about this, I was looking at some of the comments, and a couple people said, "I'm so glad that I'm hearing this." So just you talking about some of those things, how you grew up and how it's affected you and so on. I mean, you're not alone in that. Like everybody that's crossed over to the dark side has that problem. And then other people need to hear that too, because they don't realize, sometimes we don't realize that we're not alone in what we're dealing with, which is another reason why I wanted to talk about this particular topic tonight with the shadow things and the glitches and all that stuff, because I hate that it's taboo to talk about. And I say love, hate on purpose. I hate that people feel like they can't trust people to, talk about this stuff unless it's, unless you are 100% sure that that person that you're talking to is safe to talk about it, or very anonymously, people with troll accounts on TikTok or whatever. Because I talk to so many people on a daily basis that are seeing such weird shit. And then I love it at the same time because it's like a secret cult that we're all involved in and we don't even know how we got here. It's kind of, I mean, that's a joke, but it's not a joke at the same time. At least it's not like the grippy sock cult, like we're not. but yeah, I hate that there's so much trauma that goes along with religion, especially as a kid. And I'm sorry that you guys dealt with that you lived through that. And I'm glad that me or anybody else you come across can help you in any little bitty tiny way at all. Before we go on here, anything else weird that y'all want to talk about that you've been seeing that we didn't? I know there's a lot, but I mainly wanted to touch on like the weird ass shifty corner of the eye shadow shit. Like it's driving me up the wall. It's driving me up the wall.
I do apologize if it's slightly loud for a moment, but may I ask, has anyone else noticed the change in energy around it? How it can be completely calm for 1 second and then the energy is almost as if it's a firework going off in a million different ways.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, where everything's calm and happy and cool. And then it seems like here, when I'm at the shop, I notice it. Not in the shop, but outside. Like, you be outside and it's great. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, God, like, don't turn your back to the street. Like, what's going on? Like, what should I be looking for? It's almost like instantly heightened.
Most definitely. I wasn't sure if I was the only one who noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I have noticed that, and people are usually like, Monica, you're just really paranoid. You're always like that. Well, I mean, it's okay, but there's still something. Yeah, so and different smells. I've noticed different smells also.
Yeah, smells that come up out of nowhere that should not be there.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot of people in the comments here that are agreeing with you guys about the energy changing and shifting and so on. And interesting. So I'm gonna assume probably everybody has felt it. If you're in the spiritual realm at all, which obviously you are if you're listening to this anywhere, it is weird, and it's a weird feeling too, because it's not like you just notice that the energy is shifted. You're like, oh gee, like when somebody in the room just got a text that they're really upset, and suddenly you realize, oh, they're kind of quiet, they're not talking or whatever. It's not that kind of shift. It's a weird instant. You can feel it. It's like when you're walking through water and you're in like a really warm area, like maybe you're in a heated pool and it's really warm, and then you walk into an area where suddenly it's ice cold, like that instant shift of your senses to it. It's that kind of shift, like, and it's creepy. It's creepy. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm curious if you guys, I would say start noticing if glitches or these shadows are showing up when the energy shifts. Like, I haven't paid attention to the two of them correlating. Usually, especially if I'm outside and I see one of the big ones, then, you know, I'm kind of like, and I'm going inside. Like, you can have out here on the rooftop, sir. So yeah. Well, with that, guys, we'll get off of here. And next week, I think we need to talk about timelines, because that was what I originally wanted to talk about today. And it may change between now and next week too. I mean, because I'm headed up to Colorado. So next week's Witches and Wine will be from, actually it'll be from New Mexico. I lied. It won't be in Colorado. It'll be from New Mexico. The week after that will be in Colorado. But I think that's a great thing to talk about in going, that or cryptids maybe in New Mexico. Because if y'all have never been through New Mexico, especially in the dark time, I'm pretty sure that skinwalkers were born somewhere in the Southwest. Like, I'm about 100% convinced at this point. But anyway, with that, we'll let you guys go, and we will see you guys, or I will see you, or you'll see me, I guess, because I can't really see you. I'll see you. You'll see me. Whatever. I'll talk to you later.